Hello everyone, this is Kona, and thank you for tuning in for another TF2 commentary. This is part 2 of the cheapest loadouts in TF2, and it's a little difficult to do this because I think it's very difficult to explain what cheapness is, because I'm using it in the context of a fighting game. I play Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and in that game there are some really cheap characters that seem just easy to use, or it's not overpowered. Cheap does not mean overpowered, because I think like the only overpowered thing I consider in TF2 was the Equalizer. That thing had just too many good things about it. And you know, Valve recognized this, and then they split it up into the Equalizer and the escape plan. So I think that was an overpowered weapon, but everything else, it's not completely overpowered, it's not broken. It's just some of these loadouts are really cheap. For the Engineer, I think his cheapest loadout is the Huntsman, the Wrangler, and the Gunslinger, especially the Gunslinger with that annoying mini sentry. And if you ever play as Scout or something, you will know how annoying these mini sentries are. They have a lot of range, they don't do too much damage, but usually I find that when you put a mini sentry down, people don't really pay attention to it unless they're really trying to focus on you and they can actually watch you place it down. Otherwise, the mini sentry stays out there, people don't really think it's a threat, and it does a lot of chip damage. It just keeps on pecking away at people until someone finally realizes, like, hey, this mini sentry is really annoying, we have to go and kill it. So it's really good for just getting a lot of chip damage. You'll probably get a lot of assists as Engineer when you play with this. Not many kills, you might get a kill here or there, but the mini sentry is really good for dishing out damage and getting those assists. As for the Huntsman, I still think the Huntsman is pretty good, even though Valve nerfed it and removed the ability for the projectile to go through multiple people. That was a big deal, and that's why I think a lot of people complained about it, because you can just basically spam at a gigantic mob of people and hit almost everyone in that mob. But now it only hits the first person and doesn't penetrate players anymore. So it is a little more balanced, I guess, but when you're up close, this actually feels kind of like a shotgun, even though I'm trying to use it as a long-range weapon. When I'm trying to deal with spies and stuff, it actually feels a little bit like a shotgun. I don't have to lead the target too much. I can kind of use it as basically a shotgun, and it doubles as taking away their cloak like that. Like, he couldn't do anything in that situation, but you know, he was a Dead Ringer spy without cloak anyway, so he was screwed. For the medic, I think his cheapest loadout is the Crusader crossbow, the Kritzkrieg, and the Solemn Vow. Now, all these weapons are actually pretty good, especially the Crusader crossbow. Before, the slow reload time of that weapon really discouraged people from using it, but ever since they made the weapon reload a lot quicker, well, you can start spamming arrows. It's almost like your own little mini Huntsman. It still does damage on enemies, but you can also stand back and heal your teammates. If you feel a little unsafe and you don't want to go in there, you can actually just heal your teammates from a distance. But you have to be pretty good with it as well, so that's the downside. The Kritzkrieg, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing more annoying when you're trying to build Uber and then the enemy medic has a Kritzkrieg, he pops it on you, and basically you're dead. You die almost instantly, and there's almost nothing you could have done except run away or pop the Uber, or maybe if you had a pyro with you, that pyro could have maybe reflected some rockets or whatever back at them. So the Kritzkrieg is really difficult to protect yourself against, but when you use it, oh man, you can wipe an entire team with it. It's so much fun. As for the Solemn Vow, I actually would have chose the Uber Saw as the cheap melee weapon for the medic, but I have been killed by the Solemn Vow so many times that it's so annoying, and it seems like that was, like, how did he reach me? For some reason, the Solemn Vow seems to have a longer range, a longer hitbox or whatever, and when you get killed by it, you're probably gonna think, how did he hit me? How was I even in range? So many times I got killed by that, and that's why I think the Solemn Vow is a really cheap weapon. And also, you can see the your enemy's health, and so if you see that they're low on health, you can actually just rush in there for the kill. For the sniper, this is actually my favorite loadout: the Huntsman, Darwin's Danger Shield, and the Tribal Men Shiv. Now, I love the Huntsman. The Huntsman is so much fun to use. And I know people are going to say, oh, it's not the Huntsman, it's the Luxman, or it's the spammy weapon. You just spam in a crowd and you get a hit. Well, that may work sometimes, but I found that you actually have to aim with this weapon to get really good at it, to get those headshots. It's probably the quickest way to get kills with this thing, is to get headshots. The Huntsman is also surprisingly good at close quarters combat. Let's say you find yourself one-on-one with a spy. Maybe you're in the back and you're trying to snipe with the Huntsman. I don't know why you would do that, but let's say you find yourself one-on-one with a spy. I think the match actually goes in favor of the guy with the Huntsman, the sniper. For the spy to kill the sniper, he would have to get either a lucky face stab or a few revolver shots, and that actually takes some time. If you're playing as a sniper Huntsman, you can just quickly turn around and just shoot an arrow, and maybe you'll get lucky with a headshot. You are at pretty much point blank range, and for some reason, the Huntsman has a very large hitbox for headshots, so headshots seems to come more frequently with this weapon. With the Danger Shield, you get a health boost to 150 instead of 125, and that's going to help out a little bit because you're probably going to be on the front lines a lot as a Huntsman sniper, so having that extra health is actually pretty useful. We are finally at the Spy's cheapest loadout, and as you can guess, Ambassador, Spicicle, Dead Ringer. Need I say more? I guess I will. Okay. The Dead Ringer by itself is really annoying, and it's really cheap, and I think it might be the most popular watch used on TF2. At least that's from my observation. I don't really know because I don't have the stats, but I see a lot more Dead Ringer spies than I do in Visawatch and Cloak and Dagger. The fact that the spy has a get out of jail free card is pretty cheap, and it's spawned this new type of playing spy where it's not really about sneaking around, it's about just getting killed on purpose and then getting behind the enemy that way. It's kind of an annoying way to play spy, but it seems to work. It seems to really work on public servers. Now combine the Dead Ringer with the Spicicle, and the spy's mortal enemy, the Pyro, is no longer really a threat. They gave the spy another get out of jail free card, the Spicicle, and I just like, wow, really? Now Pyros, only the smart Pyros that will continue to flamethrower all around, will actually be able to catch these guys. The spy has way too many safe ways out with the Dead Ringer and the Spicicle, and it seems to be like a really cheap combination. As for the Ambassador, you're probably going to have to practice a lot. I know I have to practice a lot to get those headshots, but 102 damage with one shot. That's pretty good, and from a distance too. So those are my cheapest loadouts for TF2, and I'm curious as to what you guys think are really cheap loadouts or really cheap weapons. Let me know. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day. See what I'm talking about? Spicicle just saved me.